in truth. This is the time to start. Open your heart and open your mind. Engage in truth.
Welcome back to Engage in Truth. This is Steve Ford, your co-host, along with Pastor John Bornschein, Senior Pastor at Calvary Fellowship Fountain Valley, located in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Well, last episode was titled The Rise and Fall of the Antichrist, Part 1. We began our exploration of Daniel chapter 11, and we talked about the fact that even though the love of the nation of Israel for God faltered, his love toward them never has and never will falter. We read in Deuteronomy 7, it says, "For you are a holy people to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for his treasured possession out of all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. It was not because you were more in number than any other people that the Lord set his love on you and chose you, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But it is because the Lord loves you and is keeping the oath that he swore to your fathers, that the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now therefore, that the Lord your God is God, the faithful God, who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations." Now, as his children by adoption through Jesus Christ, surely we can take comfort in the same unrelenting, steadfast love that God has toward us. If you've missed any of our prior episodes, they're archived on the church's website at calvaryfountain.com. That's calvaryfountain.com. And here's Pastor John to get us started.
Thank you, Dr. Ford. You know, I realized that last week, as we were going into Daniel chapter 11, we really spent the entire program just giving the introduction to Daniel chapter 11. We hadn't even read a verse yet. And really the intent was so that we understand what is going to happen in the nation of Israel, especially as we look even to all of the nations of the world. You need only to go to the book of Revelation to understand that the final 7 years, the final Shemitah, known as the tribulation into the Great Tribulation, affect all the nations of the earth. In fact, there won't be a mountain or island in place by the time Jesus Christ comes on the scene again to reign on high from his throne in Jerusalem. So we were trying to convey, and I hope you, our listener, were able to capture that while the nation of Israel is going to incur a great deal of hardship, we are not to in any way take our eyes off the glorious love of Jesus Christ, who loves them immensely and loves us immensely. And so there is even a reason for the sufferings that we, the Gentile church, go through, and yes, even the nation of Israel. And the kind of struggle that we're talking about as we get into Daniel 11, we're going to find out what kind of ruler the nation of Israel makes a covenant with. Not unlike Antiochus IV Epiphanes, but this individual, they will actually enter into an agreement with him before they were under Greek rule. This time, though, they will willingly seek someone who offers peace in the Middle East, and the whole world will worship this individual. So it's not just the nation of Israel, but what he does in the nation of Israel, according to Zechariah 13:7-9, is that 2/3 of the people will be slain there. So for those Gentile naysayers who even call themselves Christians, they will say, oh, see, Israel has been replaced. We, the Gentile church, have thus replaced them and have the full blessing of God, not understanding that even in suffering, God has a mighty plan. So there is an appointment with a great struggle, even with this hostile ruler over the entire earth. But even throughout the world, we see scripturally throughout the book of Revelation that many will still call on the name of the Lord and be saved. The only thing that impedes that are those who take the mark of the beast. Otherwise, many will still be coming to salvation. In fact, we see that they will even lose their heads for their allegiance to Jesus Christ. So it will be a time of suffering unlike any other on the entirety of the face of the earth. So there is always a reason for struggle, but ultimately, just as we, the Gentile Christians, have to trust God, so does Israel. We must trust God even in suffering. This is true not only for Israel, but for all who call on the name of the Lord. And we see that in 1 Peter chapter 4, 1 Peter 5, 2 Corinthians 4:17, 2 Timothy 3:12. I feel like sometimes I just start rolling off scriptures like I'm like the fine print on a pharmaceutical prescription warning. But the reality is we don't want to say anything that doesn't align with God's holy word.
That's
and
right.
so that's why I sometimes will just start rolling off these verses too, because it's important as a student of God's word that you are able to navigate this for yourselves, not just taking our word for it. So we also have to see that even in Colossians chapter 1, verse 24, to understand suffering as Job had to understand it causes us to then understand that there is a great and glorious plan that is so much bigger than ourselves. And through momentary afflictions, even in this, God is doing a glorious work for his kingdom, for your good as part of our sanctification process as he purges sin from our lives, and even through disciplinary measures over nations themselves. Otherwise, God would not be just, and he is a holy judge indeed.
He sure is, as we talked before about Paul and all the things that he went through, I should say, and he referred to those as light and momentary troubles.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. Puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
It really
does.
You
consider that he was stoned, beaten, shipwrecked, bitten by snake.
Light and momentary troubles.
That's right.
Well, we know that Jeremiah the prophet said that Israel would go into captivity for 70 years, and Daniel had read that. The 70 years had come to an end, and Daniel fully expected that all of the land of Israel would be restored and that the city of Jerusalem would be rebuilt and the temple would be refurbished and all the people in captivity would return. But only 50,000 or less had returned to Israel, and more than 80,000 stayed in the land of captivity. Those who stayed behind, they were solidly entrenched in a pagan lifestyle. And they really weren't interested in returning to the broken down land that they had left. They remained behind in disobedience, unwilling to make the 900-mile journey in faith. And so this was not the end of their chastening. It was only the beginning. The Greeks, Romans, Ottomans, many others will be used by God until the second coming of Jesus Christ, as you were saying, Pastor John. Then there will be a time of refreshing, restoration, and a 1,000-year kingdom where Israel is not only the capital of the world, but the epicenter of worship of the one true God in the created universe.
That's going to be amazing.
It is.
I just can't wait. The more you study from Ezekiel, Isaiah, I mean, really, there are several chapters after Ezekiel chapter 39, all the way to the end of the book, describe the millennial kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah spends a great deal of time on that. And of course, Revelation gives us at least a good chapter, paragraph, if you will, on this 1,000-year kingdom, and it's glorious. So we should be looking forward to this. That's why I believe in Matthew 6, we're to pray his kingdom come.
Yeah.
Don't be asking God to delay his coming. I think we ought to be praying that he comes soon, quite frankly. And so after seeing the glory of the Lord Jesus, listen, Daniel begins speaking with an angel of the Lord. I have not personally had such an experience. I have spent a great deal of time in God's holy word, had feelings in prayer time of confirmation or direction, even through counsel of many brethren. But I've not had an angel actually come into my living room and give me clarity on these matters. We have to remember Daniel had been fasting and praying for 21 days. And so he was ready. He was seeking answers to this. And so this angel restores Daniel's bodily strength and then tells him what's about to take place over the next 2,500 plus years. He just wanted an understanding of what was going on in the near future, or what was happening in the hearts of the nation of Israel, and seeing that so many had remained behind instead of being faithful to go back to the promised land. Of course, those who remained behind didn't understand they're about to go to Susa and have to deal with Persian captivity there. And so, of course, we have a wonderful story of Esther that transpires as a result of that. And so they were thinking that they were avoiding trouble when actually they were entering in a new kind of trouble because of that disobedient heart. So here Daniel just was wanting some answers, and now he's going to get a glimpse into 2,500 plus years into the future, right? And so it was a near future as well as a distant future. This is the same angel that is battling against the prince of Persia. Of all places, still have the prince of Persia active today. That's modern day Iran. The demonic forces that are trying to move against the plans and people of God. He reveals to Daniel that he and the archangel Michael are working together to protect God's people, even those who remained behind despite their disobedience. So in chapters 9 and 10, Daniel was starting to see with open eyes the spiritual battlefield going on around him. I want to take you just for a moment to 2 Kings chapter 6, one of my favorites. I mean, when you look to this section, you go, wow, okay, that just is such confirmation of the spiritual battle space. This particular section is found in verses 15 to 18. Here's what we read. And when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, Alas, my master, what shall we do? So he answered, Do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw and beheld the mountain that was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. That's so awesome. So there is so much more happening around us than we're aware of. Okay, so now I think we're finally ready to read verse 1 of Daniel chapter 11. Here's what we read there. Also in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I, stood up to confirm and strengthen him. Okay, so this angel of the Lord is taking Daniel back to when Darius the Mede took power, and that's going back all the way to Daniel chapter 5. So the angel is going to reveal to Daniel the sequence of events from that point forward, in summary, really. But rather than focus on the Gentile kingdoms, although they're alluded to, the focus is about to center only on Israel and what the nation and the people will endure. And we see that throughout prophecy. It's often as throughout our study of Daniel even, we've noticed there that there are, even today, some 200 nations, but what we find is that the emphasis is what happens that affects the nation of Israel. And we see that in Ezekiel as well. We start to hear about, Rosh and Gog of Magog and others. And it's like, well, why suddenly go further out? Well, it's because they're affecting the nation of Israel. So now the amazing thing for us is since that we live here now in 2026, we're about 2,600 years after this prophecy, give or take. We can look through the history books, all recorded history now, and we can see how accurate these prophecies were. And really what that causes us to do is bask in the awesomeness of God. It doesn't mean that everything that Daniel's about to reveal to us has fully occurred, but the first part of Daniel 11 did. And so what we see then is a sequence of events that builds up ultimately to the final Antichrist. So what happens here is we look at the first sequence of events and go, wow, it all happened exactly as prophesied. This gives us confirmation to know that whatever is in the distant future will also be exactly as foretold. And you're going to see here in this chapter, there's amazing detail that's given. I mean, things that wouldn't have even made sense as Daniel is recording these things. But now, as we look back, we go, whoa, that's amazing. So this should actually strengthen our faith to trust that the rest of all that's revealed will also come to pass exactly as foretold.
Yeah, you mentioned that before in the first coming of Jesus Christ and how many prophecies were fulfilled. And then, So surely we can expect in the second coming that those prophecies should be fulfilled as well.
That's right. It is 18 prophetic books. In the Bible, but that doesn't even account for all the other prophecies sprinkled throughout. I mean, go like Genesis,
right?
Proto-evangelium that was given there. And that, we think about, okay, that was written by Moses, around 1445, 1440 BC, thereabout. But we also understand that when it was verbally given, when those decrees were made by God, we're talking about almost 4,000 years before they'd actually come to pass with Jesus Christ at the cross.
Right. Wow.
So this is not a reactive book at all. It was already foreseen before time began, and we're just getting glimpses of God's glorious plan that cause us to have to learn to trust him in the midst of fiery storms.
Amen. Well, here's chapter 11, verse 2. It says, And now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than them all. By his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. So Daniel has already been under Darius and Cyrus. And now the angel reveals that there will be 4 more kings that are significant in the sequence of the events, with an emphasis on the 4th king.
Yeah, so the first of these kings was a man named Cambyses. And we probably, if that name sort of jogs your memory, if you've spent any time in history class, maybe you've heard these names a time or two, but he reigned from 529 to 522 BC. He was the son of Cyrus. Then we have another name that pops up. It's a Pseudo-Smerdis, and he rules from 522 BC. Thereafter, anyway. And Bardia is probably a name that's more familiar to you. And history tells us that he only ruled for a few months. I mean, he was an imposter who claimed to be Cambyses because he looked just like him. All right. So the third king was a man named Darius. So he also follows in the same name and style. A lot of times these rulers, we see a lot of pharaohs. Mm-hmm. We see a lot of Caesars, emperors. So
I was thinking.
Even the Herods. Look how many were in the Herod family. Right. Great confusion because they borrow from each other's names from that dynasty, if you will, because they know that person was great, so I'm going to take their name. People followed them, bowed before them, so they'll do it with me too. So this man actually becomes known as Darius the Great, and he rules from 522 to 486 BC. The fourth king is Xerxes the Great. Okay, I'm not adding the great to their names. That's just how they carried themselves, right? Mm-hmm. So 486 to 465 BC, he was the son of Darius, but he had another name, and his other name was Ahasuerus. He's the king mentioned in the book of Esther. He amassed great wealth, commanded the largest army in the ancient world. But with all this power, as with men with power, he was left unsatisfied. So what does he decide to do? He goes after Greece. He was, however, defeated in the Greco-Persian Wars, during which an estimated 300,000 men would die in battle. But the Greeks never forgot about the Persian attempt to overthrow them.
Here's verses 3 and 4. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he has arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the four winds of heaven. But not among his posterity, nor according to his dominion with which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for others besides these.
Okay, so again, this is a lot of history here, but it's so important. It sets the stage because, as I just indicated before, the more we understand about the detail the Bible gives, and the more we can see the history books and compare it and go, wow, look at this detail, it further strengthens our faith within Scripture, because no other book gives detail like this. So with these details that have been outlined here just in verses 3 to 4, what we find out is 150 years will go by, and the Greeks, led by Alexander the Great, from 336 to 323 BC, will sweep through Persia in total conquest. By the time Alexander was 33, he had conquered the known world. Most 33-year-olds today are barely conquering video games. The entire world.
Out of their parents' basements.
So, yeah, right. I mean, so here we've got an individual who was motivated to great difficulty to go out and seize the world for himself. So the Greek armies had captured everything from Europe to India. We talked about him and the Greek Empire after Daniel was given the vision of the ram and the goat in Daniel chapter 8. So listen, when Alexander died, he had only a half-brother, an illegitimate son, and a newly born baby. All three were murdered, so there was no one to assume command. And this is why the kingdom would split into 4 parts. Okay, so we end up seeing how these 4 parts take Egypt and Syria, and this is Egypt is south of Israel now. I mean, so we see this division there, and then we see those countries that are north of Israel, and those two ultimately become the ones that we focus on the remaining of this chapter. So it's not just the 4 parts as a whole. What we're talking about here are the real emphasis on what circles around Israel, Syria to the north, Egypt to the south, and the battles that ensue therein. So in Egypt, a Ptolemaic line of kings was established. Sometimes they're called pharaohs, though not technically, since they were of Greek descent. Just because they ruled in that southern area, they like to sort of embellish or sort of assume the identity of the pharaohs before them. And so in Syria, a Seleucid dynasty was established. And through the centuries, those two dynasties warred with each other, and they fought most of their wars where? In Israel. Israel became the battleground. So from verses 4 to 20, we cover about 300 years of history when these wars waged on the borders throughout the land of Israel. It was almost 400 years into Daniel's future, but yet now we look back and go, wow, exactly as Daniel was told would happen. The Greek kingdom, after Alexander the Great, split into 4 parts. The two would war against each other, use Israel as the battleground. Now, can you imagine being on the Mayflower Compact, going through that? If you've ever read the Mayflower Compact and you're reading this and you're standing there on the Mayflower and you're contemplating, what is it that we're about to accomplish? And for those of you who don't know, in the Mayflower Compact, many lines have thus been edited out of the school system today, but it declared that this nation, the United States, would be for the advancement of the Christian faith. So before they even step on the shores in 1620, imagine then getting a glimpse of what the world would look like in 2026. How overwhelming would that feel? That must be what it was like even for Daniel. So historical records reveal that at least 124 major battles and wars have been fought in the land of Israel, not including current events. In fact, even Napoleon said Megiddo was his favorite battlefield. And if you've ever been to Megiddo, you would see why. It is an incredible green valley with these plateaus on either side, so the generals can go right up there and look down into the spacious battlefield. And so therefore they have said that more wars have happened in that space than any other space in human history.
So this is verse 5. Also, the king of the south shall become strong, as well as one of his princes, and he shall gain power over him and have dominion. Now his dominion shall be a great dominion. So the king of the south is not just one king. This is going to be a term for the succession of kings that hold the throne, known as the Ptolemies in Egypt, as you were saying. We also call them dynasties. It is one throne occupied by a number of men over a period of time.
That's right. Okay, let me see if I can get through a couple more verses here,
Sure.
Maybe 3 more. Let's see if we can get through. Verses 6 to 8. Let's try it. And at the end of some years, they shall join forces. For the daughter of the king of the south shall go to the king of the north to make an agreement. Okay, pause here for just a second. You see the kind of detail that's revealed here? It's one thing if he just told us, hey, there's going to be a couple kings, they're going to war over Israel, and let's move on. Yeah. No. He wants to make sure we have details that couldn't be faked, right? That once they occur, you're going to go, wow, the Bible said this would happen exactly like this. For the daughter of the king of the south shall go up to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of her authority, and neither he nor his authority shall stand. But she shall be given up with those who brought her, and with him who begot her, and with him who strengthened her in those times. But from a branch of her roots one shall arise in his place, who shall come with an army, enter the fortress of the king of the north, and deal with them and prevail. And he shall also carry their gods, lower G, captive to Egypt, with their princes and their precious articles of silver and gold. And he shall continue more years than the king of the north. Okay. All right. Clearly, we're going to be out of time today. I want you to chew on that for a moment, because this is actually one of my favorite 6 sections of Daniel, because it is like an impossibility to fabricate this. Right. The only way to understand this is now to look through the history books and go, okay, let's find a sequence of events that looks exactly like what the Bible said would occur for a future tense for Daniel, now a past tense for us, that's going to be a building block towards a future kingdom that'll ultimately be ruled by this final Antichrist. So I can't wait to take that apart with you, because it is so fascinating how every one of those details happened exactly as the Bible said it would. So I hope, if anything, we've piqued your interest just to come back and listen again to engage in truth as we continue to go through Daniel chapter 11. So we'll give you some explanation of what verses 6 to 8 reveal to us, and we'll continue our journey through this incredible chapter. I hope you check out this, not only this study, but the entire series. Go back, listen to all of our Daniel series, and you can find it at calvaryfountain.com. Again, that's calvaryfountain.com. This is a ministry of Calvary Fellowship Fountain Valley Church. Services are 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Sundays. We'd love to see you there. God bless you, my friends. Take care.